Welcome back, and we're on episode 3 of You Know My Name But Not My Story, and my name is James Kugama.
My name is Chris.
So, guys, thank you for joining us today for today's episode of You Know My Name, Not My Story podcast. And this is the Brave Project. My name is Donnell Grant, and I'm the founder of the Brave Project. And like we do on the other episodes, we're going to basically discuss mental health in the Black and ethnic minority community, and just to get your views and your thoughts around, I guess, how you feel about it. Now, I'm joined with my co host today.
Hello, hello. I hope everyone's doing all right. Oh, my name is Leo. My bad.
Thank you, Leo. So let's shoot. The first question is, why do you think young Black men are least likely to seek support or help for their mental health? And Chris, I'm going to put that to you.
I think we're just not taught it. I don't think. I mean, from a young age, we're always taught not to cry and not to really show emotions, and emotions is a weakness. So from early on, any emotion that's deemed weak, we tend to shy away from it and not speak about it. So we don't seek a way to speak about it. Sorry, and look for avenues or ways for us to express it. Normally, most young kids probably turn to anger or whatever, but we're never taught how to actually just speak about it. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be down for a couple of days because it happens. It's life. But yeah, I don't think we're taught or shown how to do it from a young age.
Yeah. And I'll say, I feel like people are probably looked down upon it because, like growing up, like when you're like in a moment where you're about to cry, people say "man up," or they
Yeah.
don't want to you to be seen as a weak or a sissy. So
Yeah.
I feel people don't want to be seen as vulnerable, basically.
The next question is, who do you feel comfortable going to or speaking to when you need support?
I'll say growing up, I didn't have that anyone to go to, but now I've kind of matured and learned, and now I have my mom too that I share stuff in my family mostly.
I think when I was younger, my way of doing it without actually thinking I'm doing it is by poetry and stories. And then just sending it out to people in a way for them to interpret it, but not think I'm going for it. So I'm putting it out there, but you wouldn't know it's about me. But now, I would say the people that I'm most comfortable speaking to, I'll say I'm quite lucky. I've got quite a few, to be fair. I've got quite, I've got my missus first of all. I've got my mum. I've got my brother, and I've got, I would say, two close boys that I could call up and speak to whenever something's up, or I just have a check in and come back to reality. Really,
Just on that as well. Do you lot feel like? So the first question is, do you lot feel like it's difficult to seek support in first place? And if yes, then why is that? Why do you lot think it is so difficult?
I think it's difficult because, like I said, we're not really taught. It's only when you grow up and mature and realize that crying and sad emotions ain't a weakness that you kind of own it and be like, "Do you know what, I am having a bad day," um, or sometimes my boys can pick up on it and be like, "Oh, I haven't come check in a while. Let me come see what you're saying," and then we just sit down and speak about it. Really, or my missus, she can pick up when my vibe is down, and she'll be like, "Oh, like, what's wrong?" We'll speak about it. Same for my mum. If I'm quiet and I haven't made any noise when playing PlayStation or something, she knows something's up, so she'll come upstairs and be like, "Oh, are you okay? I haven't heard you all day." I'm like, "Do you know what? It's just one of them days, really." But yeah, I'll say when I was younger, there wasn't that avenue for me or shown to me.
I'll say for me, like instead of speaking to people, I feel I used outlets like either sports or gaming, and sometimes you might overdo it and like you might overindulge in gaming and lock yourself in the rooms, and I feel like when I was young, I was not that open. I was a quiet boy, and I didn't really overshare or vent to anyone. I just pretty much kept everything to myself and bottled myself up until something happens, and then I either lash out or like something just happens. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. So, um, my question would be, to Chris,
Mm-hmm.
what does support look like for you? I know you said that you go to like your partner, your parents, but what does it actually look like? How would you kind of sum up the support that you have?
An open space with no judgment. I feel like I can just speak my mind and people actually listen and take in what I'm saying and try and help me accordingly. And like there's no judging, there's no like feeling embarrassed that I'm expressing myself or feel like I'm weak for expressing myself. So I feel confident and comfortable and I own it when I'm expressing myself because I feel like when we're younger we fear that people might use it against us, but now you couldn't use my own emotions against me.
Yeah, and I'll say for me, I feel just having like a listening ear without someone like that's interrupting you. I feel like sometimes when you do share, they kind of like, oh, why don't like you just go straight to the solutions? But maybe sometimes some people just want to like have someone just to listen and just allow them to pour out whatever they're holding.
Chris, just one question on what you said about safe space. What's more important, the safe space or being brave enough to actually seek support? So sometimes, let's say for instance, there might be a safe space, but the person's still not feeling brave enough to still, get that support. Or sometimes vice versa, that the safe space might not be there, but someone might be brave enough to still ask for support.
I would say it's difficult, but I'll say for me it was the safe space because I quickly came to terms with not being embarrassed about my emotions or what I'm going through because it's just who I am. Like I'm going through it. It's me. So I'm not gonna be embarrassed about myself. So having the safe space and being able to vent when needed was probably best for me. It might be different for other people, but I'll say for me the safe space was more important.
Yeah, James, what about you?
Could you repeat the question?
So what do you think is more important, having a safe space when it comes to seeking support, or being brave enough to seek support even though the safe space might not be there? So what's more important, being brave enough to look for support or having a safe space?
I think being brave, because for me, I was not really self-aware of the like let's say when I did have those like troubles, I did not go out seeking for help. It was I kept everything to myself, and I didn't really trust people. And it was only until I hit rock bottom that's when I started to look for help, and I was much more open to getting support. And I feel it's much more easier to help someone that is looking for that help than someone that's not accepting that help. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And just which kind of leads on really nicely to the next question, which is confidentiality and trust important when seeking help or support?
I would say at the beginning, just so that you can get comfortable with expressing yourself, and then once you've overcome that obstacle, then if you're okay with being open about what you're going through, then like I said earlier, it's not going to be used against you, so you don't really care or mind who hears it or who takes it in because it's not going to be chucked back into your face or anything like that. So you don't have that worry anymore. So I would say at the beginning, yeah, because you might be wary and whatnot because your first time expressing yourself, but after a while, I don't think it matters, to be honest.
Is confidentiality and trust important when seeking help or support?
I'll say yeah, definitely. I feel if you feel that what you're gonna share is gonna be used or exploited against you, I feel you're less likely to open up and you're more likely to close up, and then it just defeats the purpose of looking for support. And yeah,
Okay, so my next question is I'm usually, well, not usually, but statistics show that women are more comfortable seeking help than men are. Do you think that men and women get the same support with their mental health? That would be my question. And to you, James.
I think the reason probably for that statistic is probably women are like more likely to seek their family or their friends. Like when like there's a problem that comes up, and they're always like willing to share and have people to vent to. And even if the person they might vent to might not be the right person, they still would just do that just to release that burden and pain. But I feel maybe men, they're more, I don't know, just more guarded, and I don't know, just like they feel like maybe they have tried before, but they just probably not um they probably, I don't know, just I feel men are like seen as like the people with the solutions or the leaders, and whenever you're in a weak state, that's when people are more likely to take advantage of you, and they don't, when a woman is needs help, I feel people are more inclined to provide moral support as opposed to men. Yeah, they'll probably look down on the man.
And Chris,
Um,
do you think that men and women get the same support when it comes to their mental health?
no, but then same support, no. But I'm not too sure who gets more, especially with like social media. You tend to see a lot of people and anybody getting corned these days for anything or anything. But who gets more support, or do I think women get more support?
Remember, this is your perception. Like, what do you think? How do you see it in your
I feel like
world?
men are more open to helping women than women are more open to helping men. Maybe because women don't really know how to help a man with mental health. I feel like because it wasn't really a thing up until recently, we've never there's never really been a way to do it. So, but I'll say it's fairly equal, or maybe like a little bit split in favor for women.
Do you know what? Just on what you said, yeah. Um, and this is for both of yous, and this is maybe like a yes or no thing. You can expand on it if you want to. But do you lot think that men are more inclined to help women than they would in helping other men?
Yeah, I feel like men being alpha males, it's deemed our duty to look after women, and not necessarily vice versa. Like men having to be alpha males, breadwinners, bring bread to the table. That's your role. You don't really have time for emotions per se. And women being, the carer for children and whatnot, they have that ability for emotions. But I'd say men are more likely to help a woman mentally than a man help another man.
So, so just a bit of a context on that one, and obviously everyone's going to have a different experience. The reason I asked you that is because there's been times where, and this is in the past. Obviously now I'm not ignorant on that level, but in the past when I was like younger, I used to think, oh, like he's a man, he doesn't necessarily need my help.
Yeah.
But which is quite an interesting one. What about you, James? What do you feel?
I think it depends on the relationship you have with like your friends or like family. Let's say if you had like a cousin or a brother or friend, maybe they were more willing to help you than a stranger or like someone like a coworker, who may just like like what you said, like, oh, he's a man that he doesn't need the help.
Mm. Cool. My next question is: do you think society cares about men's mental health? That's a tough one, isn't it?
It's a tough one. I think some do, and I think it's just a ploy for what's going on in today's day and age. Like everyone's just trying to be in on the next thing that's going on. So I think some people do care, but the vast majority is just it's just the trend right now. So everyone's just doing it because I don't know if everyone's on social media, but especially on Twitter, like you would see the advocates say, "Oh yeah, men's mental health, blah 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 blah," and then the next day someone's getting corned for something, and then it's like, but yesterday he was concerned about his mental health. So now if he turned around and done something to himself, who's at fault? Is it everyone on social media for corning him, or him for letting it get to him? It's like, do you actually really care for his mental health, or are you just saying it because that's the trend right now?
I think might be situational for people. I feel like they will use the mental health agenda when it suits them, or like when it's like their close family member. But maybe if it's like a stranger, I think they will be less concerned about them. And yeah, they all. I think, let's say if they see someone in the news, the only way they can emphasize have empathy for that person is if they think about, oh, if that's my brother or my father, and try to put in their own shoes, basically.
Yeah, I think if it's not close to home, people are not actually taking what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like if it's not affecting a person that's next to you, they don't take it in as if it was someone next to you. So I feel like, for example, if my brother was to be in something, I know it's my brother, so I know I'm gonna go help him. But if it's a stranger, I might overlook it. But yeah.
My next question to you guys would be in regards to representation. One of the reasons that I set up the Brave Project was because there was a lack of representation. When I looked at a lot of the large mental health organizations that are doing amazing work, but in terms of the statistics for suicide or mental health in the ethnic minority community, there was lack of representation. And what I saw was actually quite a lot of tokenism when they might have like World Mental Health Day, you might have representation. It might be World Suicide Day, then I'll have representation. It might be Men's Mental Health Day, again, a bit tokenism again. We'll have representation, but it's not something that continued. But today is about through your eyes. So my question for you would be, is representation important for you when accessing support? And that goes to James.
I feel like when it comes to your own mental health, and you need it at the moment, I feel it does matter, but I feel like as long as the service is there, it should just be accessible. I think no matter what color you are, I think as long as it's more accessible, and if representation is a barrier for stopping people to use the service, then I feel maybe they prefer to work with people that are familiar with them, and maybe they might know how to work with people from their backgrounds. Yeah.
Okay, and over to Chris. What do you think about representation? Like, say for instance, you needed maybe to seek support for your, maybe you wanted to get a counselor, or I don't know, if you maybe a GP, if you wanted to go to speak to your GP about your mental health. Is it important that they're able to represent you, and representation, is it important?
I think speaking to someone would help because I feel like they'll have a better understanding of what I'm going through, or actually take in what I'm saying rather than just brushing it off as whatever. So I'll say representation is important. Is it a barrier? I mean, it can be a barrier. Is it a barrier for me? No. But I can see why it's a barrier for other people who struggle to speak out or hasn't had the platform to speak out. So if you're young, black, Asian, hit up the Brave Project. They'll help you. But yeah, I can see why the Brave Project. I can see why representation is important.
So I feel like you mentioned it earlier, Chris. But the question is, do you think it's a trend to care about men's mental health at the moment?
Yes.
So I guess, and just following on that, so how genuine it is the support for men's mental health, and like you said, is it just a trend? And
I feel like I still feel like it's a trend. I feel like it has improved since it has become a trend. I feel like a lot of people are taking it in more, but I still see it that people just use it as like a token to say, oh yeah, I've done it. Oh yeah, I'm helping support. But then, or like when people put up the change their DP to the black DP, and then changed it back and then went on as if nothing happened. I feel like we quickly move on from what the actual issue is and not actually solve it. We just kind of brush it under the rug and be like, oh yeah, that was last week's problem. What's this week's problem? So I still feel like there's a lot more that needs to be done and could be done. I'd say we're on the right path, but I can't wait for the days it's not a trend and it's actually something that we take in properly and support properly.
I guess like, what's your highlight from this conversation? Like, what do you take away from this conversation, and what advice would you give someone that is maybe that does need support and they're in a certain space?
It's crazy that James and I are from Newham, but have different ideas and aspects and views on things. But it's good to speak to someone who is like me, but had different experiences and how they've gone through it, so that maybe one day if I do go through the same situations, I now have a broader mindset, a wider mindset, whatever the word is. And I now might take a different angle to help solve that issue whenever it arises. What I would say to the people, find it might be bizarre, but speaking to your mum, obviously, because you shouldn't be having partners at 13, 14, 15. Get me focused on school and that. But I'd say speak to your mum. You'll be surprised how much support your mum actually gives you. It's crazy that I'm not even saying dad, but that's a different topic for another day. But speak to your mum. She'll support you in more ways than you actually think. And speak to your boys as well. If they're really your boys, and they're actually there for you, they might laugh at you, but I would say laughing is the best medicine out there. Really, it would help you in more ways than you can think. Yeah.
I'll say one takeaway that I'll share is like find your tribe and also just build your own support network. And I feel that once you have your support network, no matter what state you are, or if you have fallen down, you have people that will pick you up.
And I'd just like to finish off with something that we always say in all of our podcast episodes. It's a quote that has been mentioned by a very, it's basically by a mental health advocate who, for me, is a pioneer and does a lot of things in the mental health space when it comes to, like, I guess, ethnic minority community and just people in general. And his name's Shocker. And this quote is basically, we all have family members who've been sectioned, brothers, sisters, parents, aunties, uncles, or friends. We all have family members that have been abused or gone through divorce or separation. But basically, we all have our own story. And if we share our stories in that safe space, that shame dies. So I would encourage everybody to share your stories, because when you share your stories, um, the shame dies. And, and that's why I guess this podcast is called You Know My Name, Not My Story. And this is what we've done. We shared today. So thank you guys for joining us.